a good friend of mine, another EO member, before I joined EO, he dragged me into EO as a big football player. He grabbed me by the ear and he said, Nigel, you need to spend, more time, with your family, because you're not going to have a family when you turn around. 20 years is going to go by. You're not going to have anybody there, and I really paid attention to that. So.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, or good night, depending on what part of the world you're visiting us. How are you? I'm Daniel Marcos, the host of the Learning Out podcast, where we talk with amazing entrepreneurs and how they scale their companies, but most importantly, how they grow themselves and their team. We know that the only way to scale a company is growing ourselves and growing our team. And that's exactly what we're going to be talking with a great friend of mine, Nigel Bennett, coming from Vancouver. Let me just do a quick intro. Nigel is an award-winning entrepreneur and author of a couple of books. He is the CEO of Aqua-Guard Spill Response, Aquagard.com. That's the website we want to learn more about him. And it's a company that it's a global leader in all spills and really protecting the water, that it's our most precious resource around the world. They've been having multiple awards for the great work they've been doing for many, many years. And you're going to hear about it, of his learning experience, how he almost sold his company, and then he backed out and really preferred to keep the company to enjoy the growth and really the impact he was having in the world. He's a devoted entrepreneur and family man. I know Nigel for, I think, 16 years now. We're in a program together.
Probably more, yeah.
Called Gathering of Titans, that we meet in MIT every year. And it's been such a pleasure to see Nigel grow and the way he has evolved and how he has really embraced being family man. I love all the things he does with his son. You're going to tell us about the podcast that you do with your kids and all that. And he travels all over the world. It's crazy. He's going to go on a 4-week vacation next week. He just come from a 2-week vacation. And I was like, Nigel, I thought you had sold your company because you're traveling all the time. So how are you, amigo?
I'm good. I never like to call it a vacation. It's just part of life.
Yeah. Hey,
the vacation things means vacation to me seems like you're sitting there on a chair with a Mai Tai sitting on a beach. That ain't happening. I can't do that.
But you live like a millennial. You live all over the world and run your company remote and continue to grow and have a huge impact in the world.
Oh, thanks, Daniel. It's such a pleasure to be on your show, and I thank you so much for being on my son and I's podcast. We have a podcast called Impact Podcast, and it was I think it's like 2 years ago. I don't know. It's been just.
So how's been the experience to do a podcast with your son? Why you started doing?
Oh, it's really cool. It's super cool. It's super, like, I never thought. I guess it all started because I wrote this book called Take That Leap, Risking It All for What Really Matters in life, and I guess when you write a book, you suddenly get this instant, people want you on their podcast. So I was on all these different podcasts and probably 100 podcasts. And then over that period of time, did so many podcasts. I thought, hey, Devin, my son, because we'd been so fortunate. We traveled, I guess this is, a few years back, I was able to set my business up to run without me around 2012. And then 2014, 2015, we took off for a year with the family and we traveled, but simple, like backpack, one t-shirt, a few pairs of underwear, flip-flops, whatever it is. And we travel for a year off the grid to, all these different surf countries and whatnot. And we met some amazing people that were doing incredible things around the world, a lot of philanthropic work in all these different places. So Devin and I, my son, he's an actor, and so he does some voice work as well. So it was interesting. I said, hey, we should do a podcast because we've been so fortunate to meet so many amazing people doing incredible things around the planet, really making a difference, but maybe their story may not be heard. And maybe if we can help it just a little bit, that'd be cool. So we've been doing it for a couple of years. We've probably done 100 and something episodes, and it's just been so much fun because we have I'm the old guy, I'm 61 now, and Devin just turned 27 2 days ago. So we have these different perspectives, it's really cool. And I've got people have just telling me it's really different. And it's really awesome to have those different perspectives and be able to do it with your son. I mean,
it's a dream experience to do with your son.
It's a dream come true. Is I never thought I'd ever do anything like that. It's pretty cool. So yeah, thanks for asking. Yeah.
Very, very cool. Really, really admire that. And I've been in your podcast,
thanks,
but it's how much fun you guys have together. I think that's the dream of all dads, that we have that relationship. And I have a very good relationship with my son, but that's a great experience on how to do it. You and I were talking this weekend. My daughter went to college a month ago, and I had this weekend with my son. I was like, let's get into a plane. And we flew to to visit my daughter and spend 4 days with her. Went to a game and all that.
Awesome.
A lot of fun. But
Awesome.
that sounds like a great excuse to do all these things with your son and really
Yeah,
enjoy
it's fun.
it.
It's fun, and it builds our bond closer. And we both learn so much. Like, we learn so much. And now we have these engaging conversations about our guests and what we've learned on these podcasts. And the dinner tables turned into a different place, you know.
You have a lot of experience sharing on the table.
Yeah, that's what it is experience sharing, which is really cool. Yeah.
That's super cool. So let me go back to, at one moment you build an amazing, very successful worldwide company, and one moment you got a big offer to sell it, and you were in the process of selling it, and then something happened.
Yes.
So tell us about that.
Well, yeah, I founded a company called Aqua-Guard Spill Response back in 1992. If I want to step further back than that, I worked for my father for 10 years from 1982 to 92. And he had an international like environmental mapping company. Like, they did an emergency contingency planning for oil spills and whatnot. So I lived in, Venezuela, Brazil, Egypt, Indonesia. I was in like 10 different countries for 10 years. I was living all over the world. And until my father, it's in my book. I tell the story, but there's the short Coles Notes version, is that my father got thrown in jail in Egypt at the end of our contract. We've been working there for 5 years on and off. And we had an office in Alexandria. And I basically was cleaning up the office, cleaning everything out. We'd done, and going back to Cairo, and he disappeared, for one, and then I had to figure out where he was, and he had been arrested, thrown in prison, and I had to escape the country because if they got me, it wouldn't have been good, right?
He didn't allow him to do a phone call to let you guys know he was.
I got a phone call at 3:00 in the morning in a hotel room in the dark, sitting in the middle on the floor with one of our other guys. We didn't know what happened, but we had the lights out and the phone on the desk, because that time we had those old phones on the desk, right? It rang and I answered it, and he told me to, in code, he said, take the next bus and stay with Mike, which meant fly to London, get out, fly to London and stay with my cousin Mike, because we were going to his wedding. We were supposed to be going to his wedding. But that's the long and short. So I ended up, my dad, we hadn't got along for years after that, unfortunately. And there was something that he did. And I wasn't going to live my life like that. So I ended up breaking away and forming Aquagard. So I took my sister and another guy, and I broke off, and I formed this oil spill response company, because I'd been in so many countries and our clients had so many needs, and they didn't have equipment to contain and recover oil spills. I was mapping the area for sensitivity. So if there was a spill, what do you do? But they didn't have equipment. So came back, I went to the British Columbia Institute of Technology and did some mechanical engineering stuff, and came out and then broke away and formed this Aqua-Guard Spill Response company. That was in 1992. Yeah. So go ahead. No, you go ahead.
No. Just one question, just to get a sense. What's the biggest oil spill you work on, and what you guys?
The biggest one we worked on was the BP Horizon, or the Macondo spill in the Gulf of Mexico. Back in 2010. Yeah, back in 2010. Where
how long were you in that project?
It was like 3 years. Yeah, it was a long time. Yeah.
So let's go back.
Very unfortunate, but we were just talking offline before this, that business, people see us and people that, look at this guy, no, business is always up and it's down and it's up. It's always been up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down since I set foot.
On the outside, you look like a very successful, and you are very successful.
Well, that's what you were saying. Oh, he's flying over here. He's going over. Yes. That's now, but in the past, it wasn't always like that. Never got to see my family. My kids were really, really young. I was spending 6 weeks in one shot away all over Asia, and visiting with potential customers, then setting up agencies, distribution networks, and drinking too much, because that's what you do. You go one and you go out at night, and then you go to the next country, the next country, the next. Yeah, you feel like a sailor. And it was killing me. And a good friend of mine, another EO member, before I joined EO, he dragged me into EO as a big football player. He grabbed me by the ear and he said, Nigel, you need to spend, more time, with your family, because you're not going to have a family when you turn around. 20 years is going to go by. You're not going to have anybody there, and I really paid attention to that. So, yeah. So it's been,
I always, recently I teach a lot about that and how to, or focus and family and all that. And people said, well, you do it so well. And I was like, yes, after doing it so bad for so many
After
years.
doing it so, yeah, I know.
Like,
And we all do. I mean, I've been speaking to, more recently because because you have the book, it leads you into these, down these incredible paths. And I've been speaking to EO groups and YPO groups about exactly this, mostly entrepreneurs that are 50 and above, because this is exactly what's the main thing. That we've all built our businesses, but we've sacrificed things along the way, right? We've sacrificed, and unfortunately, a lot of the time, it's been our relationship and our families, and chasing the mighty dollar or their success or whatever it is, with this perceived conception that we are doing it for our family. The reason we're doing it, we convince ourselves, well, we're doing it for our family, which isn't necessarily true all the time. I found anyway, in my experience, that the focus in the family should be our number one focus, and to be with them and spend time with them and connect with them. Because if we don't, 30 years goes by and then we're alone. We're alone.
So Nigel and I went to a program last April in MIT, and the subject was halftime. And it's really our first half. It was all about us making money and being great and recognizing the world and all that.
Yeah.
And the second half is completely different, and no one really prepares you for that.
No, I know. Well, I was like your original question was, I was going to sell my company, and
So at what moment did you got a big offer? You got a big offer?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. I was going to sell the company, and then basically it would be what am I going to do? Sell T-shirts on the beach? I don't know, right? I can't do that. So I was having it was in 2010. I was with you and all of our 75 entrepreneurs at MIT at our Gathering of Titans conference. And I was almost done. I was almost done with everything, because everything up until that point had been, building and growth and, expanding your business and blah, 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 and making as much money as you can and bottom line and all this stuff. And I was kind of done with all that, to be honest with you, until this lady walked in, and she was a speaker, and Rick Sapio, I think, had brought her in. He was our facilitator at the time. And Rick had met this incredible woman, and she got up and she actually sat beside me in the talk. And I didn't know who she was. I thought she was just attending.
Lynn Twist.
And what's that? Lynn Twist. Yeah. Lynn sat right beside me, and she got up and she turned, she gave me a hug before she went on up. But Tom, okay, because I had a little chat with her, and I'm like, that's really nice. What a nice lady. And she got up and she did this talk about the soul of money. Yeah. And she talked about money can do good and money can do bad. And then she offered, she said, I work with indigenous tribes of the Amazon to help them with their way of life and protect their way of life, and et cetera, et cetera. And I'd like, if any of you guys want to come, I'm leading a trip. And so I stuck my hand up as high as I could. I said, because I was at this crossroads in my life. I was at this crossroads, and I really didn't know where this would lead. And I stuck up my hand. I said, Lynn, I really want to come on this trip. And she said, and I said, but there's one thing, is it's like, I have to bring my family with me. And she's just like, it's kind of a fundraiser thing for CEOs. And I said, Lynn, like, they're the next generation. They're the ones that are going to tell two more friends, et cetera. I've got this much bandwidth left in my life. They have all of this, right? And they have much more time to make a difference. And she agreed, and we went, and it was a completely eye-opening experience for me and my family together. All loading into, getting down to the edge of the jungle in Ecuador, loading into a single Cessna plane, all 5 of us. And they're asking us if we all want to go together, because they usually split families up. And I said, no. And the kids, we all voted. They don't, we go together. And we flew for about an hour and a half over untouched, pristine rainforest. Green as green could be. It was just gorgeous. And we landed on a dirt runway in the middle of the forest and picked up in canoes. And then we ended up going into this village with the Shuar tribe. And we did ceremony. And I didn't know what ceremony was or any of this. I'd never done any plant medicine before or anything. And so we did. And some of my kids partook in it as well. But it was really interesting. I don't know if it was my conscience, because I was really grappling with the whole idea of selling my business and getting a big bag of cash. And like I said, selling T-shirts on the beach. I don't know what's Nigel going to do. So I didn't really know. And I lay down on this banana leaf, and I had a journey in my head, and I had visions, and I had this voice tell me Nigel, not to sell my business. Don't sell your business. Keep your business and leverage it to do good in the world. And then when I came out of it, I was just like, what the heck? What the heck did that mean? Where did that go? It just didn't make sense to me. So on the flight back to Vancouver from Ecuador, I was processing and processing and processing. And then I thought, that's it. I'm not selling. And I got on a plane and I flew to London and I met the guys that were buying my business. And I said, look, it's not ready. I'm not doing it. And I pulled the deal off the table, came back to Vancouver, put a deal together to buy out my business partner. I had a minority business partner, ended up buying him out with another fellow that was in the business that was coming up through the ranks. And just ended up keeping it because I thought if I give up my platform, I have this precious platform that I've built for 30 plus years. I've grown this amazing platform globally around the world. And if I sell and step out, I become a consultant, which I didn't want to be at the time. And so, yeah, that was in 2012. And I ended up in 2012 and then 2014, I took my family and we traveled for a year to 17 different countries off the grid. We were in Myanmar and Bhutan, and we were in Colombia and Brazil and Argentina. And
how old were your kids when you did that
my
trip?
kid, yeah. So this is a good question. So my daughter was going into 9th grade, so we homeschooled her. And my son had just graduated from high school, so he was 18. And my other son was already in university, and University of Victoria. And so the four of us went, and my son in university came when he had his breaks. And he joined us for the last 3 months when his university was over in Argentina and Colombia.
Your second son had like a gap year between high school and college.
Yeah, that's interesting, because he, excuse me, I guess you call it a gap year. He didn't know what he wanted to do. He was our middle child. He had issues. He was dyslexic like I am. He had ADD like I do. And he hated school, but he barely. There you go. That's what he is now. He's 27. He's 27 now. You just described the perfect combination for a great entrepreneur, and that's exactly what he is now. So he graduated somehow. I don't know how he did, and he came with me, and I bought him a suit in Moores. Like, we have a cheap suit place here called Moores, big chain. Bought him a suit, and we took off. And when we were in London, I took him to I had some business meetings. So I met with the IMO in International Maritime Organization in London, presentation. He was running my slideshow. And what I found, Daniel, was having your son or daughter with you in a business meeting opens everything up. The people love it. These, I was in London. It was all suit and tie and very, high level guys. And I had my son with me, and they were like, oh my gosh, this is great. And the conversations they had with him, it was just opened up everything. It opened up the day. It opened up everything for myself, for the people there. It was really engaging. It was one of the most incredible things I've ever seen. So then I took Devin on every business meeting I had from there on. I'd be on an offshore supply vessel in Brazil. So coveralls, hard hat, safety goggles, on a attending ship, heading up to a ship, climbing up the ropes to get up the side of the ship, and then learning how to run these big equipment. And so every meeting I went to, I brought him along with me, which I thought was really good. And I never intended on doing that at the beginning. It was just one of these things that just evolved. And for him, I thought maybe he was interested in perhaps getting involved in the business or not. I don't know. But then him and his sister, I asked them, what do you guys want to do on this year? And they said, well, we want to do some acting. We want to go to acting school. And where that came over the bow, I don't know where that came from, but interesting. And so they went to acting school for about 5 or 6 weeks in London while we were there. And then while I was in Brazil, about 8 or 9 months later, my son said, Dad, I have to go home. I have to audition to get into acting school in London. I'm like, what? And so he flew back on his own after 8 months. And he got into acting school, and he graduated from acting school. And he's 27. And now he's an actor, and he's a successful actor. He's in quite a lot of TV shows and commercials and all this stuff. But he also has his own entertainment company called Twin Flames Entertainment, where they do circus performing, they do fire spinning, they do poi, they do dragon staff, and they're completely sold out on about 4 days a week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sundays, for weddings and huge conferences. And so there you go. It was just like this incredible journey we had together, and we discovered ourselves. And the cool thing was I was able to set the business up to pretty much run without me. And I had a new business partner, and I had a one-page plan. I had one-page plan when I set it up with things on this one page. And it's just like, Nigel won't do this anymore, won't do this anymore. Nigel will do this, and won't do this. That's it. And that was in 2012. We're now 2023, coming up 2024. And yeah, and that's the way it's been ever since. And
so let's talk about
the hell of a ride.
So this is a podcast about learning.
Yes.
Tell me about the key learnings of you and your team to be able to set the business the way you set it, so you could really travel the world, enjoy your family and all that, and still have a business that has significant impact around the world.
Yeah, well, I guess one of the key things for me is when I joined Birthing of Giants and then became GOT, Gathering of Titans, was Vern Harnish, our facilitator at the time. I think it was my very first session. He asked all of us in the room, because I was this dyslexic ADD kid, nervous as hell. I almost vomited on the driveway up to GOT because I was coming in with all these brilliant 75 entrepreneurs, and I'm like, I don't belong here. I had the, I don't belong here. What is Todd? Todd calls it. I was a total imposter. I didn't belong here, for one. I didn't belong, and number two, Vern asked how many of us in the room had coaches. And I had just hired a coach, Kevin Lawrence. I just hired Kevin. You know Kevin. I just hired Kevin probably 3 months before that, and I kind of put my head down and put my hand up, like, okay, I have a coach, because everybody does, don't they? Everybody does. And I look around, there's only 3 of us in the room at that time that had coaches. I'm like, you're kidding? Like, I came in here as the imposter, and now I'm looking around, and I'm the only one that actually has a coach. And that's the number one thing Vern said, is everybody needs a coach. He said everybody needs multiple coaches. He was talking about, Michael Dell at the time, and he was talking about Steve Jobs. He's talking about these guys. He said they all have multiple coaches. I'm like, what the heck is this? So for me, setting up, having my coach for like 18 years, I worked with Kevin for about 18 years. That really set me up, and that really headed me down the path of complete learning with things like the Rockefeller habits, implementing those with our team. At work, that's where I came up with my one-page plan, and then my one-page life plan. And just continually attending, the Gathering of Titans, of the learning. I think it's really important for all of us, all humans, to be part of, have some kind of a mentor and coach. But number two is to be a part of some kind of a peer group, business group. It could be anything. Because what it'll do is it starts us off. It's the tip of the iceberg. We join one, and next thing you know, we're in another one. And then there's another one. And then that evolves into another one. And my gosh, I've been in so many, and I've been in so many focus groups, which we call forum groups. And where we have lifelong friends, right? Like I have, like yourself, and these, we've been together. In EO, I was in a forum group for 18 years, and in GOT here, I've been in probably for 18 years. And I was another one called Tiger 21 for 3 or 4 years. And now I've been in this forum group, and they keep evolving, but it's just the learning. I just can't sit still. You say you bounce all over the world, but it's because there's a new experience. I'm learning Japanese. My wife's Japanese. I've been married for 34 years, and I never spoke Japanese. It's embarrassing. And so now I've been audiobooks, and I'm going to Japan in 2 weeks. And I'm like, okay, let's see how this works.
and what's the main learning you had to have with your team? Because you have to evolve, and you have all these learnings, and really you've been surrounded with learning peers and all that. What do you have to do with your team or your company to be able to run by them without you having to be there?
Yeah, it's what we with the planning of our quarterly planning sessions are really important for them to get in the rhythm without me.
So you run a quarterly, and you're always there. That the right priorities.
I have been there. Yeah, that's right. I have been there, but it's just like without me being involved in the day-to-day operations, like I've worked my way out, right? So I'm there for the quarterlies. I get all the reporting. And just our gatherings and some retreats that we do. But it's and I'm involved maybe half a day a week now.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's,
About
that's
half a day a
and
week.
it provides for the life that you want and the
Yeah.
impact that you want
Well,
in the world.
it provides for my family and my life, but it also provides the platform for me to do what was next. Like you talked about the next part of your life after
Yes.
50. It provides me the ability to, okay, I'm working with a bunch of different nonprofits. One's called Covenant House, which I have hold dearly to my heart because we work with at-risk youth. It's in the city. I get other CEOs and we sleep on the streets and we raise quite a bit of money for at-risk youth. And so it's allowed me to be able to open the doors to step in and be involved in these type of organizations. And some of them it's great. I mean, being a business person, nonprofits can be a bit difficult because it's a different mindset.
Yeah.
And it can drive us crazy. I gotta admit, some of the boards that I've been on have driven me crazy because everybody has a good heart, an amazing heart. They all want to do
But
good, but they don't have the business experience. So it's sometimes it's a bit of a struggle. But there's some amazing ones and some amazing ones that I'm working on. So it's really taught me how to now I'm in the second stage of life is how to give back. And I listened to a is it Clay Christensen? Clay Christensen TED
how
Talk.
will you measure your life?
Exactly how you measure life. And that's the thing is how do we measure our life? I mean, really, I've and the talking, the groups and the talks that I've been doing recently, like I said, are for mostly they're entrepreneurs, the YPO, EO, whatnot, um, over 50. Over 50. Okay. And it's exactly the same conversation every single time is how do I get my life back? How do I do what I want to do? How do I, travel? And like sorry, Clay Christian, right? There's
Yeah.
Chris Christian, there's Clay. Clay Christian has said that it's not, about the org chart. It's not about how high you rise in your life and in your company and how much money and how many stuff you acquire. It's about how many individual human beings, people you influence in a positive way and lift up along the way. And I'm really seeing that. I'm really, really seeing. I get more joy out of my life than working with people. I don't coach. I indirectly coach because I don't charge for any. I just, I love going for coffee with young people and hearing their ideas because we all want to go to coffee and tell me what they're up to. And I love hanging out with the younger generations because they are so cool. They're switched on. Some people my age in the 60s are retiring.
Yeah.
I never, ever want to hear that. I hate that word. I hate it's like it's like vacation, sitting on the beach with a Mai Tai in your hand on a chair. Take out vacation and take out retire because retire is the same thing. Sitting on the couch watching a football game, drinking a beer with nobody around, playing golf, 10 times a week with it's like, no, that's not, it's just another evolution into your life. And I jump out of bed every day and I'm just so excited. And I've got all these really cool things that I'm able to do now, but it's because I think it's because I held on. I mean, it doesn't mean I'm not going to ever sell the business. I just wasn't ready at that time. Right.
So
And
whenever you talk to entrepreneurs, usually above 50, but if someone is below 50 but want to really build a business that will keep them that quality of life and impact,
right.
with all the stress and drama, what would you recommend?
It's their sanity. I mean, what I would, from my experience, I would recommend again. I mean, it's the team. It's all about your team. It's build and nurture that team to be able to take over from you, so you can step back and be involved if you want at a higher level with reporting and whatnot. I had a conversation with my business partner when I got back off my year away because he was a little bit pissed off at me. I got to admit, he was a little bit pissed off because I took off for a year and the longer I was away, the less I called in. Right? The long I'd call like after 3 months, I'd finally call in. When I got back, I was in our boardroom and he says, I'm kind of ticked. I at so many times I could have picked up the phone and just given you shit, but I didn't. I didn't want to ruin your family experience, right? And I really appreciate it. And I really appreciate him. He's a dear friend and he's an incredible guy. But I said to him, I said, you know what? I was almost 50. I probably was 50 at the time. I said, I'm 50 years old. I said, he's 20 years younger than me. When you're 50, or he's 18 years younger than me.
You won't realize.
When you're 50, I expect you to have done the same with the business. I expect you to have set this business up, or whatever business set up, to run without you, so you can enjoy your family and spend the most important time of your life. I expect that. And he couldn't disagree with me on that point. And that's the way we've run it ever since. Yeah.
So that's so cool. Right.
Yeah.
So, but I really admire that. First, you got the awakening.
The awakening. Yeah.
You heard the voice. You
did,
got the message.
I honestly did. Yeah. Yeah.
And then you had the courage to say, I'm in. This is what I need to do. This is what will make me happy. Yeah. And that's what I'm going to do. And you just jump 2 feet. And you've been defending it since. And
I've been defending it.
You found a way to do it. You found a way to be able to build it.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And you know, the interesting thing, Daniel, is all the voices in our head. Because I know when Kevin Lawrence, I had this list. I had an asteroid belt with Kevin Lawrence, right? And the asteroids were all the things I had to knock away to get to clear my path so I could have a clear thing. So the one thing that was left on my list, this is what I want. I'd set everything up, got the business to run without me. It was just like then for me at that time in my life was take a year and travel with the family. And Kevin called me. He said, "Hey, we got this one thing left on your list, Nigel. Let's do it." And I'm like, it's too difficult. What about, I got the business, and I got the house, and all this other stuff, and we got a dog. Like, what are we gonna do with a dog? And he's just like, "Nigel, hang on a second. Is your wife there?" I said, "Yes, Reiko's here. Could you ask her, is she ready to go and do this 1-year trip?" So I yelled across the room. I said, "Hey, Reiko." And she said, "Absolutely." And he said, "That was it." He said, "That's it. You guys can do that. Let's put this together."
Figure everything out.
So we did it in like 3 months and we were gone. We had no plan. We didn't plan anything. We just left. And we had one suitcase. So what it was like all this stuff in my head, all this naysaying, you can't do it. You can't do it. You can't do it. It was all BS. It was complete BS. It was my own mind making up excuses not to be able to do it. And that's for most things with all of us, right? We have these little voices in our head saying, "Oh, don't do that. Don't do that. Safety is here. Don't do that." It's a big old world out there. It's a big old universe out there, and it's ours to explore. And especially with our family, if we're able to do it with our family, is nothing more precious.
So when you tell the story, I'm relating. I did a round the world trip, like a 16-month trip with my wife.
Wow.
So I built my first business when I was 24. When I was 29, I had sold it.
Yeah.
So I had money in the bank. I had just married, no kids.
Yeah.
And I was out pretty fast. I had to commit 2 years to a new company. And probably a year and 10 months, something happened and said, "You're free to go." And I came home and I was like, "I don't have a job anymore. Let's travel." Yeah. And my wife was like, "No, we have the house and blah, blah." And she was telling me all that. And she said, "Well, let me put the house for rent. If we could rent it, then we'll leave." And I was like, "Perfect." Next day, we got an offer. This was back in Mexico. We got an offer from Nestle for an executive paid in dollars. Perfect. And we rented the house for 5 years. And that financed a big chunk of the trip.
Oh my gosh.
But now we wanted to do it with the kids, and we haven't deployed it with the kids. But you're right. Once you take the decision, then everything else.
That's exactly it. Exactly it. Once you make that decision, it's easy after that. Yeah. And that was the most easiest thing I've ever done is to do that. But it was making that decision. You're so right.
And I tell people, scaling your company is a decision.
Sure.
And once you decide, then you figure out what you need to do and how to do it. Yeah. But you have to have the decision first. And that was a perfect way that you heard the sign, you took the decision, and then you just blew it off the park behind that.
Yeah. And you just keep on going. And I mean, there are ups and downs. I mean, you do, you travel for a year and you're like, "Oh my God, what am I started writing a book while I was traveling, which was really fun. But it took me 3 years. So I got back and I kept writing. But then you finish writing a book. Is this like, okay, now what do I do? Yeah. Now what do I do? Now, but that's life. Amigo, something always pops up, right?
Yeah. It's always a pleasure. Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure, Daniel.
I really admire how you live your life and how you take decisions in life and really live life in your own terms and really having a big impact in the world. So,
thank you. It means a lot. It means a lot coming from you. Thank you so much. I really admire you. So thanks, Daniel.
Lots of fun, amigo. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias, amigo. Hermano.
Hope that everyone
hermano,
learned
hermano.
some, and you have had a good moment here and some clarity to be able to take your decisions and then just live the
Just
life
take that
build the
leap and
company that you
go.
want. Yeah. That's the name of the book, right? What's the name of the book?
It is. Take that leap. Yeah, you
Take
got
that
it.
leap. That's awesome. Hey, last thing, if someone
Yeah.
wants to contact you, follow you, where can they follow your
Yeah,
content?
it's just www dot Nigel NIGEL Bennett BENNETT.com. NigelJBennett.com. Easy.
Awesome.
Easy
Right.
peasy.